Hello students, I hope everybody is safe and everybody is healthy. This video is for B.Ed second year students. In this series, I am going to teach you paper titled Creating an Inclusive School. This paper has 4 units. The title of each unit is as follows: Concept of Exceptionality in Children with Special Needs, Legal and Policy Perspectives along with Role of Organizations for Education of Children with Disabilities. Unit 3 is Special Needs and Inclusion, and the last one is Practices and Support System for Inclusive Setup. We will begin with unit number 1 for now. Concept of exceptionality and children with special needs. Before we begin, we need to understand a very simple concept, that of diversity. Now, what is diversity? The word has various aspects, like there is diversity in terms of race, ethnicity, religious beliefs, political beliefs, socioeconomic status, age, physical abilities, gender, and so many such aspects are there. Interestingly enough, the word diversity is derived from an old French word which means making dissimilar. The importance of this concept will be clearer if we see the definition given by Pearson 2010, which is learner diversity is the group and individual differences that we see in students. Thus, this concept is very relevant in terms of our paper as well, that is creating an inclusive school. The need to create an inclusive school comes from the fact that there is diversity present. Along with diversity, there also comes the concept of individual differences. Since no two children are the same, we need to accommodate this concept as well. So, people, as in children, come from various different backgrounds. They vary in terms of their health, intelligence, physique, and all such categories. In fact, the great philosopher Plato defined individual difference as no two persons are born exactly alike, but each differs from the other in natural endowments, one being suited for one occupation and the other for another. These are significant because they are responsible for individuality in personality and also make social progress possible. Thus, we can conclude that the differences among individuals that distinguish or separate them from one another and make one as a unique individual in oneself may be termed as individual differences. This brings us to the concept of exceptional children as well. These are the children with special needs. Now, the concept of disability. The term disability is used for individual functioning. The term is used for individuals with physical impairment, person with mental impairment, sensory impairment, cognitive impairment, etc. The word disable is different from the word impairment because impairment is an irreversible process or condition, while disability is reversible, at least in some cases. Similarly, impairment is physical in nature, while disability is functional in nature. And lastly, impairment is loss of structure, while disability is loss of ability, as the term suggests. Now, Article 1 of the CRPD describes persons with disabilities as those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. So, in this context, we will further study about the exceptional children and the educational practices associated with them, and also the planning related to teaching with exceptional children. So disability based in children are of 8 kinds, which can be classified as exceptional children, backward children, deprived children, delinquent children, maladjusted children, children with learning disabilities, physically handicapped, and mentally retarded. We will discuss the meaning and definition of children with special needs now. So, according to the American National Society for Study of Education, an exceptional child is one who deviates from the normal or average child in physical, mental, social, educational, emotional, and behavioristic characteristics to such extent that he requires a modification of school practice or special education services in order to develop to his maximum capacity. When limitations related to a medical condition arise and begin to have a negative effect on essential life functions such as walking, talking, or hearing, a person is said to have a disabilities. And it is important to recognize that it is not an illness, it's just an health and since just as health and illness exist along a continuum, so does disabilities, and the stigma needs to be removed as well in order to effectively teach. Let us discuss some characteristics of children with special needs now. So, number one is that these children are very obviously different from a normal child because they show a varied behavior. These children also suffer from physical and mental problems. They have to face problems in adjusting to their environment due to their diverse needs. They have need of special care for developing their abilities and capacities, proper adjustment, overall health, overall growth and development, and they also have requirement of special education. Now there is also a categorization of children with special needs. So it can be broadly divided into, I think I've already mentioned that, but it can be broadly divided into the following. Number one is sensory, with hearing, visual, or who are physically challenged. Then there is intellectual, who are called gifted children or creative children or mentally challenged. Then we have development disabilities, the third one, which includes autism, cerebral palsy, learning disabilities also. And then number three is scholastic backwardness, which are like underachievers and slow learners are included in this one. The next one is children with special health problems, for example, epilepsy, diabetes, asthma, anemia, etc. And lastly, we have children belonging to the other marginal groups, like the minority groups and other groups. We will now begin by studying visual impairment. It includes blindness, means impairment in vision that even with correction adversely affects a child's educational performance. The term includes both partial sight and blindness. Now there are various types of visual impairment as well. So clearly there's nearsightedness, farsightedness, but then there are many other types as well, like the cross-eyedness, problem in cataract, glaucoma, etc. Now, what are the causes of visual impairment? There are multiple again. So there could be a hereditary problem. There could be carelessness adopted by pregnant mothers in their diet, or it could be due to malnutrition, use of strong drugs. Then there could be mishap or incident at the time of birth of the child. Other factors include starvation or malnutrition in the child, unhygienic conditions faced by the child, infectious diseases, diseases of iron infection, deficiency of vitamins, improper posture, adopted at work injury of the eyes, poisoning also affects eyes, or other factors like alcoholism, drug addiction, effects of external objects like dust, smoke, pollution, etc. Now, some symptoms of visually impaired children are that they have irregular eye movements, they have unusual habits like rubbing eyes frequently or covering one eye, and the third one can be sitting abnormally close to television or holding a book very close to their face. Now, education for such children. Curriculum for blind children should be different from normal curriculum, obviously, because daily task and useful skill training should be arranged for them to make them self dependent, and braille teaching must be used because it is effective. Then there is government guardians and voluntary organizations who should cooperate with them. There should be no examinations for them, or there could be better options instead. There should be residential schools so that proper care can be taken, and especially trained teachers should be appointed, and they should also be treated with love, sympathy, and cooperation. Now, teaching students with visual impairments has various points which need to be kept in mind. So, number one is preferential seating. So, such students need to be given preferential seating, as in they should be seated at a very comfortable position from where they can look at the board properly and hear properly, because if they cannot see it, even if they can hear properly, that will also help them understand whatever is being taught. The second is exam accommodations. So adaptive technology should be used, a scribe should be there, extra time should be given, computers can be used, braille should be used, tapes or image enhanced materials should be used, and such other things should be used. Then there is arrangement for accommodation. A meeting with the student is essential to facilitate this, which may include, in addition to exam accommodation, access to class notes, tape of lectures, print material in braille especially. And then fourthly, orientation to classroom. They should know the physical layout of the room so that they do not face any problem in while walking. Then there is use of language. Although it is unnecessary to rewrite the entire course, teacher can help a visually impaired student by avoiding phrases such as look at this or examine that. And then lab assistants. These students need a lab assistant or a partner in lab classes. And then lastly, print material in alternative format. So braille could help, or it can be scanned onto discs, or the material can also be converted to audio tapes for their convenience. Let's discuss hearing impairment now. So it simply means an impairment in hearing, as the term suggests, whether permanent or fluctuating, anything that adversely affects child's educational performance but is not included under the definition of deafness. Since deafness is a hearing impairment as well, but it is so severe that the child is impaired in processing linguistic information through hearing with or without amplification. A hearing loss is above 90 decibels, which means that a hearing loss below 90 decibels is classified as hearing impairment, while above 90 decibels is generally considered deafness. Characteristics of the same include that children show little or no attempt to interact, they have difficulty in motor development, it leads to loss of normal verbal communication. These children generally use gestures for communication, they do not respond consistently to sounds, they ask for things to be repeated, and they turn the volume up loud on TV and other electronic devices. There are 4 types of hearing impairment. There's conductive hearing loss, there is sensory neural hearing loss, there's mixed hearing loss, and lastly there is unilateral or central hearing loss. The hearing impairments have also been classified on the basis of their severity, and further types of hearing impairment are also there. Degrees of hearing loss include deafness, difficulty in hearing, hearing impaired, and residual hearing. Now, these vary on the basis of decibels. Some causes of hearing impairment are heredity, maternal rubella, meningitis, and noise pollution as well. Repeated exposure to loud sounds of industrial noise or jet aircrafts, these have been increasingly recognized as a cause of hearing loss. Some challenges such students face in education are subjects of grammar, spelling, vocabulary, taking notes while listening, participating, watching educational videos, and presenting oral reports. Some educational implications include, these children who have difficulty in hearing generally require some form of special education services, and these services include regular speech, language, and auditory training from a specialist, amplification systems most of the times, services of an interpreter for those students who use sign language, favorable seating in class to facilitate lip reading, and captioned films or videos, that is with subtitles, and then assistance of a note taker and instruction for the teacher and peers in alternative communication methods such as sign language and in counseling. Educational services for children with hearing impairment. In schools, there are various, like over 500 schools for hearing impaired children, though we need more, but there are also NGOs, and we are repeatedly progressing in the field in terms of building more and more schools for such students. And in terms of colleges, there are two prominent colleges for the deaf, one in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and another one is Valakkam, Kerala, and these provide degree courses in commerce and art subjects. And then IGNU also provides, IGNU is Indira Gandhi National Open University, Delhi. That one also, this university also provides courses for such students. So in this video lecture, we have begun doing paper titled Creating an Inclusive School. We began by discussing diversity, then we discussed about children with special needs, and in detail we have studied how children with visual impairment and hearing impairment should be taught and what all entails in this. In the next videos, we are going to discuss mental retardation or disability and locomotor impairment and these topics further into detail. If you have any doubts related to this paper or any other paper for that matter, feel free to contact us. The contact details have been provided repeatedly in all of the previous videos. They will also be provided in the description box. That's all for this video. You can also contact the college through the email ID, which is again given in the description box, and keep following the college website for the latest updates so that you don't miss any.